And he joins us now to talk about the front runner, if you will, for the National League MVP. Steve, welcome once again. Love having you with us. It could be Freeman. It could be Acuna Jr., but it also could be Matt Olson. And don't forget a guy by the name of Mookie Betts. How are you?
I'm doing great, Alana. Good to be with you. And I got to tell you, we keep talking about Betts and Acuna, who's going to be the MVP. Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson are in the mix right here. And I mean, you think about Matt Olson, the National League home run record is 59 home runs from Giancarlo Stanton. That's within reach right now. Now, he's on pace to hit 56 home runs, but his pace in the month of September says he's got a chance to get to the 59. He's on pace for 143 RBIs. I mean, this guy's having a tremendous season. His OPS is right up there with Betts, with Acuna. Freddie Freeman not far behind. And I actually think that the National League most valuable player may not come down to who gets the most first place votes, but I think it's how are the voters going to look at whoever they choose for first, how are they going to look at the other three, the two first basemen, Betts and Acuna, how they line them up. All three of them worthy candidates in any season other than this year. They would be the front runner for the MVP. Freddie Freeman on his birthday hitting a home run, having 4 hits overall. He's hit 339 on the season. Got a chance to be a batting champion, only 9 points away from Luis Ariz right now. So you look at these 4 guys, and all of them have a real shot. But what Olson is doing and the run production that he's had there, certainly he's benefited from Acuna. But Acuna has benefited from Olson as well. And the Braves just keep on rolling.
No question about it. I mean, this is the team that you take one guy out, and they're still probably in first place in the National League East with a chance to win the division tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies. All right, let's switch our focus now to Max Scherzer and the Texas Rangers. Left his outing earlier yesterday. Steve, he talked about it post-game, talked about a kinetic chain in his body. What more can you tell us, and how will this affect them going forward?
So I was watching this game closely last night, and Scherzer actually surprised me. He came out throwing well. He had an extra day of rest after his last start where he threw a clunker against the Astros. Remember, the start before that was against Minnesota, where he came out after 6 innings and complained of some forearm tightness. After he got knocked out against Houston, he said that he's been dealing with an ailment, meaning that forearm. Now it's the tricep. And, that kinetic link is that typically the way I look at it, I think a lot of players talk about, is if you have a forearm issue and then you get a tricep issue, it could be a compensation problem where he's compensating for the forearm, leading to a tricep problem. And this is one now that he's out. I suspect he now needs to let both the forearm and the tricep heal. This is a devastating blow. He threw great last night. He really did against Toronto. Now, Toronto helped him out a lot, missing pitches in the zone, chasing pitches out of the zone. But, Dunning threw well, but with Scherzer out of the mix, starting pitching's been a big problem. And the best way to have a good bullpen is to keep them in the bullpen. Well, now they're going to probably have to go with openers. They're going to have to go with secondary starting pitchers, going to tax the bullpen more. And this is going to be critical down the stretch for the Texas Rangers. This is a devastating blow to their playoff chances.
Yeah, and he talked about having made 20-plus starts in a season. You're going to start feeling things in September. He does know his body well. We'll see what that MRI results are. Hopefully we'll find that out today. Now, you mentioned the Blue Jays helping out the Texas Rangers. Steve, they were outscored 16-7 in back-to-back losses to the Rangers, and that is not helping the Blue Jays' cause at all. Where do they go from here?
Well, the Blue Jays' biggest issue is their offense. It's hit and miss. It feels like all year they've never really gotten traction. They get things going and then it stops. They get things going and then it stops. And it's games like yesterday, and really even on Monday against Dane Dunning, where they expand the strike zone. They give up so many at-bats. They swing at pitches out of the zone. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sort of, his rear end's flying. He's reaching for it. He's feeling for the baseball. He's behind the fastball. He's in front of the breaking ball. He's in between pitches, and they're just not scoring runs. Now, but this whole playoff race, we see teams that look great, and then they look horrible. We saw the Astros get swept by the Yankees and then dominate the Rangers. And now they lose 2 out of 3 to the Oakland A's. Now Texas looked horrible for a long period of time, and they win 2 in a row against Toronto. So it may come down to who's hot at the end, but the Blue Jays have not had that hot streak yet. And I think it all comes down to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. needs to perform like that MVP candidate player he was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, a lot of schizophrenic play, if you will, particularly with the Toronto Blue Jays. And they do not have a favorable schedule coming up, and certainly the tie breaks don't go in their favor also. All right, let's switch our focus to the Mariners. We talk so much about Julio Rodriguez, as we should, but J.P. Crawford, Steve, is really kind of coming up as a double threat.
He really has. And, here was a guy that was a slick fielder, kind of a light-hitting shortstop, came over from Philadelphia. They felt like they gave up on him a little bit. They didn't think the offense was going to be there, but the patience in Seattle has paid dividends. This guy can swing the bat. He's having a terrific offensive season, driving in runs, a 3-run double in the game yesterday, clearing the bases, and just, he has come up with so many clutch base hits this year for Seattle. It's been Julio Rodriguez, there's no question, but J.P. Crawford has stepped up, and when J-Rod wasn't doing it early on, it was Crawford getting it done. He's still as slick a fielding shortstop as you're going to find. The offensive production is there, and he's playing himself into what will be a pretty big payday down the road after we saw so many of those free agent shortstops making a lot of money this past offseason.
Yeah, and he certainly isn't in the same type of having so many shortstops in the free agent class like we've seen the last couple of years. So good for J.P. Crawford. Could be a good payday for him. Houston Astros, Steve, they are cooling down a little bit, and I'm thinking if you're a team that's going to face them, you're hoping you have a lot of left-handed starting pitching. What's your thought?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Over the last couple games, they've got dominated by left-handers. The Oakland A's, Waldichuk came in as after the opener in the game on Monday, and Dusty Baker said, man, this guy pitched really well against us. He said, there's nothing you can do when a guy's throwing the ball like that. He could have shut down everybody. He changed speeds, kept hitters off balance, really used his changeup effectively. And then yesterday, it was J.P. Sears who came in. Remember, Sears came over from the Yankees in the Frankie Montas deal. He has had a tough season, but his last couple starts have been good. And for Oakland, that's what you're looking for. You understand these young players are going to, take their licks every once in a while, but you want them to make adjustments. You want them to make improvement over the course of the season as they try to figure out who's part of the problem, who's part of the solution for the long term. I think Sears and Waldichuk making statements for themselves that they can get it done. And for the Astros, they better get things figured out offensively because they're too good to get shut down by the Oakland A's left-handers.
Yeah, just 2 weeks left in the regular season, and that AL West race is so crazy. It's good to see some young talent coming up. The Cubs are doing that with Pete Crow-Armstrong, Steve, and he's already making an impact in that Cubs outfield. What have you seen from him so far?
Boy, I'll tell you what, when the Mets drafted him, I saw him for Team USA in the trials. He reminded me of a young Lenny Dykstra. Now, Dykstra turned into a power hitter, but when he first came up, it was about speed. It was about playing the game like your hair on fire and reckless abandon. This guy made 2 amazing catches yesterday. His minor league highlight reel is littered with plays like this. Absolutely exceptional performance. That had a 15% chance of being a hit. That ball, of being an out, and he ran that one down with elite level speed in the outfield. This guy wants to cover everything. And I listened to the broadcast last night, and the call was 70% of the earth is covered by water. The other 30% is covered by Pete Crow-Armstrong. I love that call.
Oh, that is a great call. That game also saw Chris Bryant come off of the IL and hit a home run against his former club. All right, let's talk about Adam Wainwright for a moment. Gets the start last night for the St. Louis Cardinals in the same game where we saw John Means come off the IL. Gets his win, number 199, sitting on 199 before 200. It's been an up and down year for Waino, but great to see him continuing to have that success.
Yeah, he hadn't had a decision in his last 11 starts. He's been sitting right there trying to get to 200 wins. It's likely his last season. He'd like to get to that threshold to be the third Cardinals pitcher in history to get to 200 wins. Now, he's the third Cardinals pitcher to ever get to 199, but we like the round numbers. And so he pitched well yesterday. He pitched himself into some trouble, but he made pitches when he needed to get out of it. Got a big double play. In the first inning after he was spotted a 1-run lead, he walked the first 2 batters, and his response to it was, I was trying to set up the force out at third. Now, it's not ideally the way you want to go about it, but that's Wainwright, right? We love him. He's such a competitor, such a great guy, part of that Cardinals history. Now he's got probably 3 starts left to be able to try to get to 200. And on the other side for John Means, he showed well. Gave up some home runs, gave up 5 runs, but that didn't matter to me. He looked healthy, he looked free and easy, and he could be a factor for the Orioles down the stretch and potentially into October as well.
I love to see him back on the hill for sure. I hate when guys go down on injury. And finally for you, Steve, before I let you go, Trea Turner, ever since the Philadelphia faithful started giving him standing ovations for every at-bat, he has been on a tear. He's approaching 30-30. Does he do it?
Well, here's the thing, approaching 30-30, but he has 27 out of 27 stolen bases this year. And I think that's the interesting thing. If he ends the season without being caught, this is the most stolen bases anybody has had in a single season without ever being caught. Now, the 27 out of 27 tells me that he's not running enough. Because if you're 100% successful, you've got to take more chances. You've got to run more often, maybe twice as much because we've settled on the fact that 76, 78% success rate works. He's got to go more. I think he's got a chance to turn it on here. 30-30 after the way that season started would be a terrific outcome in his first year there in Philadelphia with, I think, room to grow in the future. So he's been a big part of it. And in the postseason, we saw him in the World Baseball Classic elevate his game. He could be a major factor for the Phillies, both on the bases and with a power bat at the plate.
All right, so you're saying to me that you don't want 100%. You want a little bit lower than that because that means you're running a little bit more.
Yeah, you've got to maximize, right? I look at it, and like we say, for a team to steal, 76% is a satisfactory success rate. It means you're maxing out the way you should go. If he's at 100%, he's got to go more. He should have 50-some stolen bases this year. Take chances on the bases because he is so good and so successful. And, oh, by the way, the best slider of anybody in baseball.